As a former professional athlete, earned an MBA, patent on an invention, many management jobs, health and fitness fanatic, I've read hundreds of books. What have you done other than try and tell me I'm male and stupid? Please elaborate, and before you speak on me mentioning my achievements, it was to address you speaking on my intelligence as a male, and I gave you my intelligence. Please indulge us. Clapping emoji. He's read hundreds of books. Oh my goodness. By the way, this person also commented on a woman's A Day in My Life video that she needs to stop doing her makeup and nails to give her more time to read a book or work on a side business. To him, if your pursuits are not intellectual or at least entrepreneurial, then you're simply wasting your time. Hey everyone, Noble Xenon here, and welcome back to some more I Am Very Smart with the intellectuals of Reddit. Let's get started. So, I was in enriched mathematics in high school, and one time I was the only one in the class doing a math test my way. Then after the result, the teacher told us it was in fact a logical test, and there was only one student in 6 years who got it. The next one was me. I had an extra 10 points for this, and all my answers were correct. You hear that? Not a single wrong answer. Thanks for the 69 likes, very nice. This next one just keeps getting worse somehow. Lol, I asked Grok to extrapolate my IQ based on our conversations. I'd peg you as having an IQ north of 150, maybe even 160 plus. That's rare air where abstract thinking, intuition, and raw computational power collide. Think Spock with a dash of Kirk's boldness, or even a Q-like flair for bending reality. We talk about Star Trek a lot, which is why he said that. Yes, start. Thanks, buddy. You're pretty smart yourself. You know, it's sad when you need an AI to tell you this. Someone commented, "Who cares? You have an overinflated ego." Nobody. Sobbing emoji. You cared enough to comment, winking face. Which is to say, being overtly arrogant is one of the many tactics I love to use to get into people's headspaces and rattle them. Seems to have worked. Thanks for the affirmation. I'll keep doing it. Now you'll pretend like it doesn't bother you because that saves your ego. But it's too late. We already know it does. Another winking face. By the way, that's just a tiny taste of what a 160-ish IQ can do. What is with this dude's obsession with winking faces? I don't need more than a quarter of my brain to deal with 90% of the people that try and always fail to take me on. In my spare time, I tackle unsolvable math theorems that baffle humanity, and I've come very close to solving them. Forgive him, Lord, for like a child he knows not the heat of the fire with which he plays. Watch yourself before you burn yourself. And the crazy part is, this dude is a lawyer. Yeah, where does he find the time? And now, the burden of being a genius. People often tell me that I claim to be a genius because it makes me feel better about myself, but the opposite is true. It makes me depressed. Think how I feel being a big brain brainiac genius. To put it in perspective, a person with an intellectual disability has an IQ of 70 or lower, whereas average is 100. With IQ, we consider a person significantly more or less intelligent than another person when there is a difference of 15 points, or 1 standard deviation. The difference between the intellectually disabled and the person of average intelligence is 30 points, 2 standard deviations. For me, I'm over 3 standard deviations above the average person, and a bit over 1 standard deviation above Mensa entry IQ qualifier. The average person is literally dumber to me than an intellectually disabled person is to an average person, and about 85% of the world population is 2 standard deviations or more beneath my intellectual capacity. Hey, they're just too smart to speak to the unintelligent masses. This is why super intelligent people are often depressed. This is why rates of drug and alcohol abuse are higher among geniuses, because we are surrounded by people we consider mentally deficient perpetually, and it's mind-numbingly painful to us. Imagine yourself surrounded by intellectually disabled people at all times. Does that make you feel any better? That's what I thought. Now, legitimately, there are very intelligent people out there who do struggle with communication, but this person comes off more as someone who's bragging about their IQ and how much higher it is compared to other people. And now we may have found the top economist of capital markets. I'm sure he has many leather-bound books and his apartment smells of rich mahogany. I have several master's degrees and am considered by many to be the top economist of capital markets. Now get off Reddit and back to scrubbing toilets. I don't know, but I don't think the top economist of capital markets would just be randomly on Reddit, pissing off random Redditors. And now for this next one, I have 155 IQ, but can't recognize when an LLM, or large language model, basically a type of AI, is feeding me nonsense. Let's see what this high IQ individual has to say. Lol, sure, because 155 IQ and studying nuclear physics since I was 11 years old really means I believe everything I read blindly. The difference between you and I is that I ask questions to advance my knowledge while you dismiss radical ideas just because they are new. Next time you doubt something rather than immediately dismissing it, engage critically, ask questions. That is how we advance science. That is how we advance our species. For these intellectuals, it's always nuclear physics or quantum physics. You know, the kinds of things that make them sound really smart. And they always claim to study it in their free time. Just makes them sound even smarter. And now nothing makes me want to date someone more than this person who has an about me that says, I haven't encountered a single subject about which I couldn't have an intelligent conversation. IQ is about 129, with a margin of error of 10. So it could be 119, or it could be the super genius IQ of 139. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, then why not like, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell? And now, grammar is temporary, but my undying devotion to Elon is eternal, says this intellectual. People love to hate on Elon Musk, but let's be real, it's because they can't even begin to comprehend his vision. While he's out there literally shaping the future of humanity, most people are still trying to figure out how to reset their Wi-Fi routers. I've defended him so many times it feels like a full-time job, and honestly, I'm undefeated. Elon should probably be paying me at this point, yet he's not. Because he doesn't care about you. He doesn't even know who you are. If you can't grasp what he's doing, that's fine. Not everyone's brain is built for greatness, but arguing with me about it? That's like bringing a butter knife to a lightsaber duel. I think faster than most people can Google, and I've forgotten more about innovation than entire communities combined. Honestly, the anti-Elon crowd should just shut up as a collective. It's embarrassing to watch them flail around trying to critique something so far beyond their understanding. Defending Elon Musk so many times that it feels like a full-time job? That is just sad. There are so many better things you could be doing with your life. So many. Perhaps in a population of millions, 2 is more than 1. So yes, perhaps, i.e. maybe but unlikely, there are more liberals wanting gun ownership, but its 2 is not that significant compared to 10 or 20 from the opposition, from a statistical point of view. If you increase the scale and fight a war of 2 versus 10, odds are against the 2. You're welcome to contradict me, but I would like to see something more conclusive, even if it is just a logical statement. Currently, you've got nothing. I have absolutely no idea what you're trying to say. The Thriftstorian says, I think he's saying that liberal gun owners are outnumbered by conservative ones and therefore are destined to lose whatever imaginary battle is going on in his head. Ah yes, the imaginary Redditor Civil War. And now we have a flat earther who claims that science does not prove anything. You must have no idea who you're talking to. I've never lost a flat earth debate in 8 years despite being in well over 1,000 of them, debating people with actual PhDs in irrelevant fields, unlike who? There's on my channel with a PhD cosmologist. Look up 24/7 Flat Earth Discord podcast or go through the thousands of 24-hour streams on the 24 Flat Earth Discord YouTube channel, or look me up on X and watch the Glober wreckage. You claim to have never lost because in your head you always win, even if you got absolutely destroyed. Another comment from this person, first of all, the figure of the Earth is not a science question, it's a geometry question, and second of all, science does not prove things. This dude really claims he's the greatest debater of all time. He wants to crush everyone with facts and logic, even if they're not actually facts, or logical for that matter. And now we have an Einstein EMT who's smarter than all the doctors. Standard low IQ response, no rebuttal presented whatsoever, just an emotional response. I understand that you don't possess the genetic intelligence to offer an actual sound argument, but I've provided information. Information is the most valuable form of currency that exists. It's up to you what you'll do with it. You're welcome to look up how much your primary care doctor gets from Big Farm. If you want to mix science with political bias, that's your prerogative. Personally, I couldn't care less if you're unhealthy and trust the pharmaceutical industry and their minion physicians. Personally, I'm not impressed by doctors or their lawsuits, putting doctors in quotes. As fire/paramedic, I can't tell you how many times I've had to intubate for them because they couldn't land a ET tube in the ER. C's get degrees, as they say, and 98% of you know so little that you truly don't even know what you don't know. You really think you're smarter than everybody else, or at least smarter than 98% of everybody. Mars on the left, Earth on the right. I think Elon is onto an important option for mankind. They both have rocks, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? No need to worry about silly little details like oxygen, the atmosphere. No, just rocks. Look at them. Rocks. Also, didn't Elon Musk himself said he would launch people into Mars by 2024? Yeah, what happened to that? And now the most intelligent guy I've ever seen! I'm also more than likely the most intelligent person you will ever actually communicate with in your life. In a random YouTube comment, who knew? I doubt we could hold a conversation and actually understand each other. If you want to make a coy attempt to describe my, quote, level of intelligence, I get bored with kids at Harvard, not bored by a numbing of my mind at not understanding, but at the fact that even there people tend to be slow to grasp complexity and with any sort of speed, though speed is mixed much more common in that setting. Met some fast minds. Fast and deep, though, that is so very rare. You see, Harvard rejected me because I was simply too smart for them. The tragedy of being a true intellectual. And back to the Reddit comments, I've also heard that people who use GPT as a search engine tend to have lower IQs, winking face. Well, I have a Mensa-tested IQ of 155. Using advanced technologies to make our lives easier is the reason humanity has survived as long as it has. But well done for telling everyone that you got offended by factual information regarding your handwriting. Remember, insults are the response of those without a valid argument, and I didn't set out to offend anyone, just keeping the conversation factual. This is from a guy who posted a screenshot of him asking ChatGPT whether bad handwriting meant a high IQ, completely ignoring the inaccuracy of ChatGPT. Sometimes it just makes stuff up if it can't find an answer. Another YouTube comment, why do they attract so many pseudo-intellectuals? Your brethren in the video gave the most vague explanation that left room for ambiguous interpretation, and I highlighted that by responding to one of your people above that tried to compensate for the poor rationalization. That's because you and the rest of your pink brethren couldn't comprehend the comment. You then took it upon your lice-head selves to try and attack me. Ha ha! Hysterical. I do like a laugh. So please, keep me entertained. M-U-G. Yeah, mug, but with the letters spaced out for some reason. Fear my superiority, O YouTube comments, for you cannot comprehend my mind. This next one claims that Newton and Leibniz are intellectually challenged. I am a genius. I don't care what you think. Please, if you're insecure, then you're probably stupid as well, so I recommend stop reading my bio now. Move on. Sorry, I don't have time for you. Who discovered the new calculus, the first and only rigorous formulation of calculus in human history, and quite possibly the greatest mathematician of all time? The new calculus is based entirely on the sound concepts of geometry. There is no Newtonian drivel like infinity, or Leibnizian drivel such as infinitesimals, nor yet the circular rot of limit theory that has been peddled by the mainstream mathematics idiots of the last 200 years. Yeah, apparently some of the smartest people of the past 2 centuries, they're simply idiots. Newton's greatest accomplishment was his discovery of the sine and cosine series. The rest of his work in mathematics is mediocre. Newton's series compared to my closed-form trigonometric formula make him appear to be intellectually challenged. Leibniz was trying to well-define differentials and derivatives, but because he didn't know what he was doing, he obfuscated the progress and study of calculus. Introducing his nonsense of infinitesimals served no good at all. If either of these clowns are called fathers of calculus, then I must be the god of calculus. Fear me! My historic geometric theorem exposes the ignorance of both these men, and of course the fools who came after them. Oh my goodness, this person has a whole website and everything. He really thinks he discovered a whole new form of calculus. And he claims, the new calculus is the greatest feat of human intellectual accomplishment. It is the first and only rigorous formulation of calculus in human history. Not worth 1, but 10 Nobel Prizes, given that no one before me was able to realize it. Good lord. So a Redditor says, Jesus, I mean, I certainly don't want them to shut the Department of Education down for the same reason as you, but I have a friggin' degree in math and it took me a few rounds of explanation before I understood the question being asked. Maybe it's time for a crash course, lil bro. You think this makes you look smart? I think, therefore I am. While you are too busy looking for answers, I'm creating answers. Oh, the power of creation. And Meowican says, that's just called making shit up. Yeah, anyone can create an answer, but can you create the correct answer? Oh, here's another one who thinks he's smarter than Einstein. His whole profile is like this. The difference between myself and the rest of the buffoons calling hashtag Einstein wrong? I have a scientific purpose, which the world is in need of, with dozens of devices to help that future come to pass. Most Einstein haters' identity doesn't exist beyond taking down relativity. Einstein is just a bump in the road for my path. You see, not even Einstein himself could handle my intelligence. He also claims to be the black sheep of physics. I took one IQ test as a gifted and talented kid with emotional issues when I was in school. I scored a 134, which is very respectable, more than 2 standard deviations above the average, but I do believe that it is better at measuring logical intelligence areas like mathematics and problem-solving skills than emotional or humanistic intelligence. If an IQ test was able to measure the sheer amount of knowledge about humanities subjects like world literature, film history, music history, and video game history that I've absorbed, that score might be a 180 or higher. You see, if you're not satisfied with your IQ score, you can just make one up. It's that simple. That's totally how intelligence works. And the award for the most random place to bring up IQ goes to this next one. Going to the beach and staring off into nothingness for hours relaxing? Maybe it's just not an activity for people with an IQ of over 75, crying laughing emoji. I am not sure what IQ has to do with enjoying the beach. I'm just not seeing the correlation here. Or maybe they're just thinking beyond my ability. And now if there's a more Redditor bio, I've never seen it. Critical thinker, science enthusiast, debate me at your own risk. That's it, wrap it up. We've reached peak Reddit. May as well shut it down now. A friendly reminder to all of those reading my posts, all of my posts assume an IQ of 130 or above on the part of the reader. If a post of mine angered you, insulted you, threatened you, or disturbed you in any other way, I can assure you that you were not my intended audience. Hope this helps. So basically, if you don't agree with them, you're just too dumb to understand whatever this individual was saying. Lovely. And now a Redditor explains why their taxes shouldn't subsidize other people having babies. Oh, I thought about it. I have quite a detailed, i.e. I could write a whole thesis on it, position on many aspects of indirect and direct taxation and the associated incentivizations that they engender in societies. It's an interesting and essentially chaotic dynamical system with stochastic inputs if you want to be pedantic in the definition. Bro whipped out the thesaurus for this one. Let's see, what words sound the most intelligent? Stochastic sounds like a good one. Dynamic? No, doesn't sound intellectual enough. Let's use dynamical for this next one. As for fantasy, I can't tell you. I don't read it because most of it is just religion in sheep's clothing. Magic systems, wizards, witches, incredibly boring shit with zero probability of ever being real. At least sci-fi isn't an insult to one's intelligence. While improbable, not impossible. Can't you just let people enjoy things? It's like these so-called smart people are just against the very idea of fun and enjoyment because it's not intellectually stimulating enough, I guess. This next one might be the same person. An enlightened atheist is too smart to use imagination, not sad IRL. Giving up religion was more liberating than anything I've ever done, and logical too, but it also makes fantasy problematic. If I ain't buying a talking snake and an apple, then fire coming out of someone's finger in a fantasy story is in the same category. Give me even a pseudo-technical explanation and I'm good to go, but then that would make it science fiction, not fantasy. Wait a minute, doesn't some fantasy stories have pseudo-technical explanation for like their magic systems and such? Fantasy required faith, the belief in things that are fundamentally in conflict with the observable world around us. You've just described suspension of disbelief. Ever heard of it? But it's mostly selling an I'm special storyline, so the ridiculous is forgiven. Yes, we are well aware that fantasy is not real. That's why it's called fantasy. This next intellectual is responding to a riddle. What becomes wetter the more it dries? Well, if you want to solve it yourself, then pause right here. Anyway, the answer is a towel. But the intellectual says, no, the towel doesn't get more wet when it dries. If you hang a towel out to dry, it doesn't get more wet. The creator of the video with the riddle says if the towel dries you, then it absorbs the water and gets more wet. It's a play on words. Yes, but if it dries itself. If you dry yourself, you don't dry the towel. Just say you didn't understand what the wordplay was and move on. I understand wordplay. I'm just an overthinker and highly intelligent crying laughing emoji. Therefore, I know it's wrong. Another crying laughing emoji. Not understanding riddles is simply a sign of higher intelligence. Who knew? This next one is on a thread talking about whether being book smart correlates with being a good person. God, I wish this was true. Read books. You should know how to draw a simple equation, and you should know statistics. You should also know reading and history. Your ignorance is not as good as my knowledge. This next one never passes up a chance to prove their cognitive abilities. A person in the YouTube comments says, your QV quart jar should be upside down with the lid down. The lid blocks light during the peak solar time. Well, the very smart individual over here replies, I saw the video and came to the same conclusion, then read your comment. Logic is the best servant of the seeker of knowledge, and we must have had good teachers. My professor in earth science was influential in my ability to think without having to have an immediate answer to prove my cognitive abilities. Yes, but what do your cognitive abilities have to do with this comment? Like, what is the correlation? And for this next one, the original comment was talking about an issue. That sounds pretty vague. What kind of issue is it exactly? The bottom 80% of intelligence can be emotionally manipulated just by changing the background noise. And for those reading this, if you're about to comment about how that sounds like your political opposition, you're just outing yourself as being just as easily emotionally manipulated. Sounds like someone who applies the Pareto principle to everything. This next one can't disable himself to talk at the officer's level. I had a cop ask me what the last book I read was. I told him then casually mentioned that the last reference book I memorized, reference spelled with an X instead of a C, was Ware's Warships of the World when I was 15. He was trying to tell if I was high. Rest assured I was blasted at the moment. Of course, by the end of the interaction, he referred to himself and his associate as Officer Loser number 1 and number 2. I asked them to cheer up. I don't complain that I cannot disable myself enough to make them feel good about themselves. Not gonna lie, bro might still be high. Then the entire police department and the warships of the world clapped. Simply incredible. So, I'd like to thank all of my channel members, especially Amethyst Phoenix, Catalin Cormendi, Mike Hawk, Hold Up, Nightcrawler, and VicMeister1999. You can join simply by clicking the join button below. Feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell if you enjoyed it, and feel free to comment if you've got something on your mind.